Hello and welcome to our very last video. This one's about theme, focus and emphasis. The more exciting, interesting parts of grammar, some people might say. I've put a document on StudIP. It even contains a menu of what's coming up in the video today. I haven't made the video yet, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be the longest one. Okay. Listen before you go any further. Please do exercise 1 on StudIP. Yeah? Go on. Go and do exercise 1 before you go any further. Okay. Okay, so with this first part, you're going to hear quite a few words like theme and focus. You don't need to memorize those exact details. The very first part is just to help you get to where we need to be. Okay? And you're going to notice here the connection between grammar and spoken stress patterns in how we speak. So we start with given and new. So given information and new information. So I'm just going to tell you that if I say I here, then this is given information. You know that I exist. Okay? I saw a cat. If I say a cat, then that's new information. It hasn't been mentioned before. My next sentence, the cat was being chased by a dog. Now, when we say the cat, we're referring to the cat which has just already been mentioned. So this is no longer new information, it's now given information. Was being chased by a dog, new information. Okay? Hasn't popped up into in conversation before, it's new. And we then continue. The dog was an Alsatian. So the dog, given, because we've just mentioned it. So now we know that it exists. It's given. And the dog was an Alsatian. That's new information. If you're wondering, in Britain we say Alsatian or German Shepherd. They both mean Schäferhund. In America, I think it's more common to just say German Shepherd. I think. Alsatian because it's from Alsace, or in German Elsass. Okay, so the basic concept of given and new, you understand. Okay, here we have a sentence. The bus was in front of a red sports car. Okay, so this is given, the bus, and the red sports car, that's new information. And this is pretty much a standard sentence in English. The bus was in front of a red sports car. When we say the bus here, the given information, this is the theme, and the theme is always the very first part of the sentence. And here we have a red sports car, it's new information, this is the focus. This sentence is unmarked, i.e., so in other words, it's what we normally expect, it's unmarked. Example number 2. A red sports car was behind the bus. Listen to how I say it. A red sports car was behind the bus. Now in this sentence, a red sports car is still new information and the bus is still given information. But they're the other way around, right? So here, when we say a red sports car, This is new information, and it's the theme because it's the first thing, but it's still the focus. So, this kind of structure, in this kind of sentence, we have marked focus. Marked means that it's not what we normally expect. There's something different about it. So the sentence has marked focus. Now, we use this at times in English, but I think it's more common in German than in English. That's my impression. And listen to the two sentences again. The bus was in front of a red sports car. It's focus, it's new information, so we say it, I suppose, slowly and carefully, deliberately. But we do the same when it's here because it's still new information. So we've marked focus. A red sports car was behind the bus. Okay. End weight means that there is a tendency for English speakers to reserve final position for more complex elements of the sentence, i.e. weightier elements. So, I have a few problems for you. Problem number one. Tell me what you can see in the picture. And the answer is, a table is in the middle of the room. Can you see that this would not be a normal response in English? To start with marked focus. A red sports car is in front of the bus. A table is in the middle of the room. There are certain situations where you might say this, but normally we prefer to have unmarked language. Solution? There is a table in the middle of the room. Okay. This is good because we've got the verb here. We like to get to the verb as fast as we can, in general, the main verb, so that then all the other stuff comes after the main verb. End weight. You could think of maybe people sitting on a seesaw, right? And this part in the middle is the main verb. And we actually want, in general, we want most of the important parts of the sentence to be here on the right hand side. So here we use the word there. The word there doesn't actually have any meaning. Obviously the construction is like es gibt in German. But let's call it a placeholder. And this enables us to get to the main verb as fast as we can. So then everything else is on the right hand side of it. A sentence that starts with, well, which contains there is, there are, there will be, there's going to be, there was, there were, there being. This is an existential sentence. It's a fancy name, but that's what an existential sentence is. I mean, you can also have there exists or whatever, but most of the time it's just with the verb to be. I want to talk to you briefly about an issue that sometimes arises. I often hear this kind of thing. I might hear someone say, Oh yeah, I went to, I know, a circus. Actually, we don't approve of circuses, but let's go for that. I went to a circus and there was a clown. Da war. Oh, I've just realised I don't know the German for clown. Let's change that. Da war ein Hund. Okay. In English, this sentence would be there was a dog there. Because the word da is the same as the second there. So in German you say da war ein Hund. But in English, if we just say there was a dog, then we can hear from the stress of just saying there was a dog that you actually mean da. Okay? Whereas when we say there was a dog, that just means es gab ein Hund, einen Hund, whatever. And so there was a dog there. So we can actually have there twice, but with totally different functions. Problem number 2, meeting you was lovely. This is actually quite a formulaic thing to say, so there's nothing actually wrong with it. But just if you wanted to preserve end weight, how could you do that? It was lovely meeting you, or it was lovely to meet you. No difference. So we use a dummy it. Yet again, this it is a placeholder. It doesn't actually have a meaning. It just allows us to get to the main verb as fast as we can, and then everything else is on the right. So end weight. I mean, both of these forms are fine. You could argue that if you might say to someone, meeting you was lovely, but actually having to spend time talking to you was hell on earth. Okay, so you could use it as a contrast. I suppose you could do the same with this as well. It was lovely meeting you, but talking to you was horrible. Okay. The point is that this is formulaic, so it's actually okay. But in many constructions, which are less formulaic. When I say formulaic, I mean these are common things that people say, and therefore it's as if people are speaking according to a formula. They're just using set phrases, right? But very often we prefer to use a dummy it to get to the verb faster, so everything else is on the right. Number 3. Oh, you can see I first designed this a few years ago. Cameron used to be the Prime Minister. He's the one who called the Brexit referendum. I'll make no further comment. What about this sentence? That Cameron was re-elected was disappointing. This kind of structure is acceptable at times, but it's not what we want all the time. Can you see the problem? Where is the main verb here? It was, wasn't it? We've got that Cameron was re-elected. I know we've got the verb, I know we've got was here, but the main verb in the sentence is here, was disappointing. And there's quite a lot of words before we get to that. Oh, we can use a dummy it. Okay, this kind of situation where you start with that Cameron was re-elected and then you change it so that We have a dummy it, and then this is the word order now. It was disappointing that Cameron was re-elected. This is called extraposition. I'm sure you say this kind of thing in German. I'm sure it's fine to say wichtig ist das blah blah blah. But of course in English we can't say important is that he comes or that he arrives. Okay, it is important that he arrives. You can see what we've done there. Besonders interessant ist das Wetter. I think you can say that in German, right? Especially interesting is the weather. Can't say that in English. Okay, so there are two options. You can simply say the weather is especially interesting, or just simply the weather is interesting. You don't always have to translate besonders. The weather, or the weather in particular, is interesting. But what's the problem here? Well, if we really, really want to preserve end weight, we could actually say it is the weather that is especially interesting. But you know what? Sometimes you can take it too far. It's actually okay to say the weather is interesting, the weather especially, or the weather in particular is interesting. That's fine. This kind of construction, though, can have its uses, and we'll come back to that later on in this video when we look at cleft sentences. But first of all, let's go through the answers to exercise 1. Okay, so we have the document on StudIP. And we're going to go through the exercises. So, A. Number 1. The other team members are happy and so am I. This is perfectly okay. And so am I. We have inversion. Number 2. As soon as we reached the beach with the children, into the sea they jumped. Fronting. Number 3. That the bank is closed today is a problem. It's alright, but it's a bit weird, isn't it? We'd normally say it is a problem. That the bank is closed today, so extraposition. 4. It was decided unanimously that we should catch the earlier bus. Okay, so the main verb is here with was, and we've got a dummy it as well. And so what we have here is passive. It was decided. Passive reporting structure. Okay, so this is totally fine. We can use a passive to help preserve end weight. In fact, that's one of the main reasons for the use of the passive. It fits in perfectly with theme, focus and emphasis in English. Okay, if this was not passive, you'd end up with something like that we should catch the earlier bus. Was decided unanimously. This would still be passive, sorry. But because we've got a passive reporting structure with it, then that helps to preserve end weight. Sorry. 5. No, I'm not going to read it out loud. Just tell me. Well, first of all, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Somewhere between that and just wrong. Where's the main verb? Ordered. right? This part here is the main clause. Everything before that is subclause. Actually, subclause within subclause within subclause. Okay, we start with an active participle clause. We just need to divide this into multiple sentences. We can actually even start in the same way. Having arrived at the pub, comma, David ordered a beer, full stop. This was a pub where so many blah blah blah, and divide it into a couple of sentences. But we certainly can't have... How am I going to do this? We certainly can't have all of this as marked focus. I mean, it's too stressful to read, it's too stressful to hear. Nah. And that's what's wrong with number 5. Different types of very much marked focus. Okay, so B will be all the same answers. Oops. So after only yesterday, were we, inversion. Joyfully, the cows ran into the fields. That's also fine. That's fronting. To interrupt would be rude. So here we have an infinitive clause to interrupt. And there's nothing wrong with this. But you can also use the same thing with extraposition, and you can say it would be rude to interrupt. 5, it will, so dummy it, and then will be argued, passive, that you lack patience if you phone them today, perfectly normal. Number 5, where's the main verb? That means we have all of this, starting with an infinitive clause. All of this is very much marked focus, and we can actually say it is wonderful to be able to travel wherever you want to, etc. Oops. After at no time, in this case at no time during your visit, but at no time is one of the standard expressions. Will it be acceptable? So we have inversion. At 6 o'clock, comma, sorry. We have fronting. It is terrible what they want me to do. What they want me to do, this is a noun clause. So that could stand for their request. I mean, it's not wrong, but we can also use extraposition. It is terrible what they want me to do. Okay. It has been claimed that snow is fun, so passive reporting structure. So we've got it, we've got a passive, has been claimed. Okay. 5, the main verb, of course, is yeah, and we have a that clause. So we can just say, it made Keith sad that there is so much blah blah blah. And you probably want to have a couple of sentences from that anyway. Okay, now we're going to talk about cleft sentences and pseudo-cleft sentences. A cleft sentence uses a that clause. If you have My Grammar Lab, it's page 322, and other grammar books, it might be under that clause or that cleft or with the advanced English, advanced grammar and use, it's actually under cleft sentence. Okay, here to cleave means to chop something in half. And so cleft sentence has two halves, each with its own verb. So this is a normal cleft sentence. Let's look at number 1. It was Fred who we saw at the cinema on Friday. So we have a dummy it each time. So we've got two parts. If you look at number 1, it was Fred who we saw at the cinema on Friday. And here we're stressing Fred. Okay. Number 2, it was on Friday that we saw Fred at the cinema. 3, it was at the cinema on Friday that we saw Fred. Okay. This kind of cleft sentence is actually quite typical, quite standard in academic writing. That doesn't mean you should start throwing them in wherever you want. But they do occur a lot in academic writing. Okay, pseudo-cleft sentences, or WH clauses, WH clefts. In my Grammar Lab Advanced, that's page 323. These are actually more common in spoken language, but they can appear in writing as well. So here they have a focus on the action. So a standard one we have in number 1. What I did was run home. Look at that. 3 verbs in a row. What I did was run home. We can also say what I did was to run home. Okay. Notice that the form we have here and the form we have here, they have to correspond. So, number 2, what they're doing is drinking wine. And number 3, what we've done is hidden their socks. So you can see they always correspond. We can't say, what I did was running home. That doesn't work. Notice we can also reverse the order. So if you look at number 4 and compare it to number 2, we can also say, with the really emphasized part at the beginning now, drinking wine is what they're doing. Oops. Okay, I would now like you to do exercise 2 in the document on StudIP. And we'll go through the answers in just a few seconds. Let's go through the answers to exercise 2. So you needed to use each of these forms once. Okay. Number 1, I walked into the room and I saw a book was on the table. Here we can say, and I saw that there was a book on the table. That is optional. I walked into the room and I saw that there was a book on the table. Existential sentence. Okay, so a book, this is new information, so we want to actually have this later on in the sentence, so we can use there was to help us do that. Okay, Kate kicked the door in frustration, and we want to have focus on the action here. What Kate did, you can hear it in the way you speak, right? What Kate did was kick, or to kick, the door in frustration. 3, we climbed a mountain yesterday, whereas we're just going to lie on the beach today. Nothing wrong with this sentence, but if you really want to show the contrast, the word today, you can front it. You can say whereas, hang on. We climbed a mountain yesterday, whereas today we're just going to lie on the beach. So you're contrasting yesterday and today. 4. They were told that they were not allowed to enter the swimming pool area without having had a shower under any circumstances. No. No. That's number 1. They were told that. Under no circumstances that's number 2. So were they okay, so they were told that under no circumstances were they allowed to enter the swimming pool area without having had a shower. That sounds far more comfortable for English-speaking ears. Okay, so of course there we have an example of inversion. Okay, under no circumstances, that's one of the forms of language which requires inversion after it. 5. Richard saw Metallica on Friday night and not on Saturday night, as I had been led to believe. That's okay, but we can also change it. We can say it was on Friday night that Richard saw Metallica and not on Saturday night, as I've been led to believe. Or it was on Friday night and not on Saturday night, as I had been led to believe, that Richard saw Metallica. So that's a cleft sentence. 6. Oh gosh, you can see already this is over 1.5 lines and it starts with that. That's not promising, is it? That you'd think it was normal to come and visit me and turn on my kettle without waiting to be asked if you wanted a cup of tea. Took me by surprise. That's the main verb, and so we want extra position here. So it took me by surprise. That blah. 7. Some scientists claim that alien life must exist elsewhere in the universe. Let's have a passive reporting structure. It is claimed by some scientists that alien life must exist elsewhere in the universe. So we've got all that stuff now to the right, and all is well with the world. Okay, next up, green dots. We're looking at the old exam we looked at in the last video, so the green dots. This is in the selection section. 9. What Keith did was steal a bike. Yeah, we know that's fine. Did was steal. We've got what Keith did was steal a bike, so here we have a pseudo-clef sentence. B. What Keith did was stealing a bike. Stealing did? No. And C, it is stealing a bike. What Keith did? No. That's just wrong. Wrong. Okay, so that's just A. And 19. Weird is that people still work as clowns. That doesn't work. Interesting is the weather. No. That people still work as clowns is weird. Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. It's just we don't... we use this every so often for emphasis, but not every sentence. And then with the dummy, it is weird that people still work as clowns, so extra position. So B, C. Right. Single sentences. Number 2, extra position. Okay. That so many types of fish can be found in the sea is amazing. This is what I think. Okay, so I think that or just it is amazing that so many different so many types of fish can be found in the sea. 8. 5 cats were under my car. This was this morning. Existential sentence. Oops. It's not hard. Okay. If you write there existed 5 cats under my car this morning, I would mark it as being wrong because that's just weird and it's not really representative of what we have in the left-hand column. 9. Clive did something. He applied for a job as a jazz pianist. Pseudo-clef sentence. What Clive did was apply for a job as a jazz pianist. You could also say was to apply if you want. You might be wondering, well, hang on, then how do I know if I should say was apply or was to apply? It makes no difference. Native speakers just say these things randomly. To my knowledge, there's no rule there. Any other green dots? There's one here, number 24. I want a cleft sentence, okay. Dawn flew to Paris on Friday. She didn't fly there on Saturday. Oh, I've already got the comma. It was on Friday that Dawn flew to Paris, and not on Saturday. Okay. So, let's quickly go through an error correction section as an example. Each sentence contains one mistake or no mistakes. Underline the mistake if there is one. In the middle column, write C for correct or I for incorrect. Don't try to do a curly I or anything like that. If in the right hand column or that's here, or this part will all be over here if you're left-handed. Write a corrected version of the part of the sentence that you underlined. If there is a mistake, you have to write a correct version for a point. So you can't just write I for incorrect. Okay. Number 1, the police is always arresting me for theft. It's so annoying. Try windsurfing if you want an adrenaline rush. All I've done since arriving is shake people's hands. Yeah. The is refers to, yeah. Carl gave me 3. In no way would I say you were a bad driver. Inversion, because it's after in no way. Oops. That's correct. What I saw from the train window. That counts as a noun phrase there. It's a noun clause, so it could. Yeah. 7. Eight. Okay, it's a complement after become, in this case became. 9. Ten. 11. 'Or may or could. 12. 13. 14. 'Can't use what in that way. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. or the dragon that was asleep. 22. I mean, we could also say the parents sang a song to their children. And if you wrote that, you would not get a point. In fact, you'd be wrong, because you would have said that a sentence that is correct is wrong. Sing is one of the verbs that comes from Old English, where we can actually have this word order. 23. 24. 25. So that should give you an idea of how these sections work. So, some practicalities about the exam. Unless I am told otherwise, I will assume that it is on Friday the 28th of August at 2 o'clock, well, between 2 and 5 in the aula and the Mensa, I think. But that information will be on StudIP, maybe just 2 weeks before the exam itself. I will have some helpers, and if we are spread across 2 rooms, I will have to go back and forth between the 2 places. You need to have photo ID with you. We need to be able to see that you are who you say you are on the way into the exam. If you have a coat and a bag, you'll need to put those at the side of the room or the back of the room, far away from yourself. Your mobile phone will need to be in your bag, and it will need to be turned off, and not even on silent, but with vibrate turned off, okay? Preferably just totally turned off. You can have with you pens, not just one pen, bring more than one pen, and a few things like that. Preferably not a pencil case, but just a see-through bag, like a freezer bag. And you can have a bottle of water. Let's see. So we'll probably need the whole time between 2 and 5. Okay. Now, what are the different scenarios for passing, failing, blah, blah, blah? Scenario number 1. You take the exam, you pass the exam. I will then put your grade on KISPOS, unless you are one of the people who has not taken pronunciation exercises yet. In which case I will inform you about your grade separately, but I won't put it on KISPOS yet. I will put it on KISPOS after you have taken pronunciation exercises, which I believe will be in the summer semester 2021. I believe. I'm not sure at this stage. That was scenario number 1. Scenario number 2. You, you come along to the exam, you take the exam, you hand in the exam as if, to be marked, and then you do not pass. Then that means that that will count as one of your 3 attempts. Okay? Scenario number 3. You feel unable to take the exam, maybe you're ill or something. Normally people would go to the doctor and they get a doctor's note saying prüfungsunfähig. In this case, we're not doing that, not this summer. Instead, simply do not turn up. Simply do not come to the exam. You might want to email me to say, sorry David, I can't take the exam after all. Okay? Scenario number 4. You start taking the exam and then you realise that you've made a big mistake and that it's harder than you were expecting, or suddenly you don't feel well. Normally this would now count as an attempt, but this semester, because people can have problems with technology during online exams, it's been decided that that you can also interrupt exams actually there. What you would then need to do would be to draw a line from corner to corner on every page, and you would need to actually write something on the very first page. You would have to write, I'll have to go and check. I'll continue this video in a moment. By the way, do you like my sauna? It's nice and big and it gets hot. The words you would have to write are nicht abgegeben, and then you would have to write the date for a second time, and you'd have to sign your name. Okay, and it helps if you put a line on every page. If you don't do that, then I will give you a grade, and if it's not a passing grade, it's not a passing grade. The system we use for the grades, because the exam is out of 100, you need 50% to pass. 50 is the pass mark. So the system is the system you can find somewhere in the Rahmenprüfungsordnung. It's used in many German universities. 95 to 100 is a 1-0. 90 to 94 is a 1-3, and so on. And then you get 50 to 54, that's a 4-0. And you can work out everything in between. So from 0 to 49, that's not a pass. What normally happens is that before people retake the exam, they actually come to our offices to look at their exam. And I think often people are interested in seeing if they were maybe late 40s or if they were 30, which is not at all good. I don't know how we're going to be doing that this year, because I don't think we can have office hours in person, so I don't know how that will be done. I'll have to find out at a later date. But just so you know, I am aware of that being an issue or a possible issue. But hopefully you'll pass. You know, I mean, if you've been putting in the work and you've been practicing, then, you know, fingers crossed. Okay, if you have any questions, send me an email. And remember, if you're left-handed, I'm going to say that I need to know by the very latest, by sometime, let's say after the first week of August. Okay, that's quite early. You can try later on, but to be totally sure that I haven't printed them already, by the end of the first week of August. Maybe the second week, if you're lucky. Okay, I think that should be everything. Oh, my final thought is, I hope you've actually enjoyed the course. I know that most people don't want to study grammar, but I hope that you've learned something from it, and I hope that next semester on the Academic Writing 2 course, you'll actually be able to use much of, in fact, everything that we've studied on the course this semester. Okay, right. See you in your exam. Bye.